Welcome back everybody. Spring is in the air, and so today I thought we could review a book that I think you will love. It's all about nature and getting outside with our students. Well, hi, I'm Courtney. Welcome to this channel where we discuss educational research one study at a time so that you can incorporate it into your practice. Today we are going to be talking about a book called There's No Such Thing as Bad Weather. Now, a quick disclaimer, this book is not written by a researcher, it's written by a journalist, but she does seem to know her way around a research study because a lot of the things that she talks about are cited, and she did look to the research to support what she's saying and to inform the way that she approached her messaging. This book is written as a narrative of the author's journey as a mother trying to get her young daughters to appreciate nature the same way she did. And through this journey, she ends up going back to her home country of Sweden, where an appreciation for the outdoors is fairly par for the course. Fun fact, I have a long-lost Swedish cousin. I do. Actually, he's not lost anymore. He found me, so maybe I'm the long-lost Canadian cousin. But anyways, we met each other. I went to Sweden, he came to Canada. It was great, we're best friends now. Okay, so the premise of the book is pretty straightforward. The author is using her narrative of encouraging her children to enjoy the outdoors and appreciate nature as a way to educate all of us about the importance of getting outdoors and appreciating nature. So she's teaching us as she's teaching her daughters, and she grounds all of her messages in research, which I really appreciate. Because this space is all about education and schools, I'm going to tailor my review of this book specifically to the education context. Some of the big points that the author talks about in relation to schools are the pressures for academic success, a lack of play, an obsession with safety, and the logistics of being able to get outside. So let's start with the pressure for academic achievement. The author talks a lot about how the shift and the push for academic achievement has led to a lot of standardized tests, and the pressure to have students do well on these tests has meant that kids are spending a lot of time indoors in school, studying, sitting at their desk, and the free nature of play and the ability to get outside has sort of been lost. Now, even though we have instructional minutes and specified recess times, there are still ways that I think we can encourage kids to get outside, and we can get outside as well while we're teaching. And so I'm gonna journey back to when I was a brownie. When we were younger, I was a brownie, which is strange because I'm not super outdoorsy, but my mom was really trying to get me involved in extracurriculars. And we just took a newspaper and stuck it in a grocery bag and tied it tight, like a plastic disposable grocery bag, tied it, and that was like a cushion that we sat on. So we could make those with our class and go outside. We don't need to have a beautiful outdoor classroom, although I would advocate for everybody to try and get a grant for their school to build outdoor learning spaces. But if you can't do that, grab some newspaper, stick it in a bag, and have the kids sit on it. Because although we are told what to teach and how to teach it sometimes, we're not told where we have to teach it. So if you have a rolling cart that you can stick a whiteboard on, take your kids outside and work out there for a bit, or do your read alouds outside, or have people do their buddy reading outside so that at least you're in nature. You don't have to always be touching the dirt and smelling the worms in order to be outside and appreciate nature. Just doing your work outside can be a good starting place. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is play or lack thereof. So the author talks a lot about how kids are really overscheduled and they don't have time for free play because they're in a bunch of extracurriculars, things are structured, and when they are in school and they do have their recess time, there are so many rules around free play that they don't actually get to be free in their play. The author talks about how free play is important to building resiliency, problem-solving skills, developing confidence, being able to assess risk, working together, collaboration. When I was in graduate school, one of the upper years students was studying free play and how it can be used to synthesize learning. And her findings showed that children will learn and then consolidate and synthesize what they've learned while they're playing. So she said an example of this was a little boy was playing with blocks and he had made up a song that he was singing out loud about the literacy lesson he had learned from the day before. So he was using his playtime and being physical and building while also mentally repeating and solidifying the information that he learned the day before to help it kind of stick into his memory. And that was totally organic and spontaneous. He wasn't told to do it or encouraged to do it. It's just the nature of play. An issue with play is that there's the free aspect of it. So students can't always have adults solving their problems, which is really hard to tackle at schools because we have yard supervisors, whether it's the teacher or somebody who's contracted out to watch the kids while they play, and the kids come to the adults with every problem and seek to get it solved. Now, we obviously don't want kids to be bullied, and we don't want bad things to happen to students at school, but they also do need practice problem solving. We have to stop getting mad at kids for having poor problem solving skills when we've taken away every opportunity for them to problem solve. And one of the ways that they have to problem solve is when they have to play together. Piggybacking on that, kids need to experience failure. When kids play, they fail, and they don't necessarily see it as failure and feel bad about themselves. They just keep trying because it's fun. And the more they get used to things not working out and then trying to solve the problem or realizing that it's not worth it to solve the problem at all, the better they'll have those skills in the academic world as well. So if we let them outside, let them play and solve their own problems, over time they should be developing a skill set that will help them academically as well as socially. The next theme that the author talks about is an obsession with safety. So now that we've got kids outside and playing, we obviously have to make sure that they don't hurt themselves or anybody or nature, right? So we are obsessed with safety, and I will admit I am a recovering safety-aholic. I ran summer camp for 7 years, and you better believe I never once lost a child. We didn't do anything unsafe. I was super by the books, no fun, none of that stuff. Now, obviously as teachers, we are bound by certain things that we just can and cannot do. And so I'm not advocating that we just go abandon all the rules. I am advocating that we move to the edges of our boundaries though. Don't cross any lines, but move more to the edges of our boundaries so that students can experience some risky-ish behavior. This is going to be tricky though, because we answer to our administrators who answer to the school boards who answer to insurance companies. And so there are some pretty strict rules about what we can and can't do. For example, we can't let kids play with basketballs in cold weather where I work, because the basketballs can get too hard, and when they hit somebody in the head, they can get a concussion. And I find this so interesting that we have such a concern for safety and such a disregard for health. If students are spending their days in overcrowded classrooms looking at screens for more than 2 hours a day, we know that there are health concerns with that. We know that they're more likely to spread illnesses to one another, as we've seen by the global pandemic. The World Health Organization has been telling us for years that young children should not spend more than 2 hours a day looking at a screen. And so we are favoring the illusion of safety over the actual health concerns that come with being indoors. And so the author is really advocating that we get kids outside as much as possible to balance health and safety for our students. And then the last area that we're going to talk about is the logistics of getting outside. So one thing that I really like about this book is that the author does talk about the difficulties and the logistics associated with going outside, like getting dirty. Where do you hang wet clothes in a school when they're all muddy? So the first thing that we need to do is find some allies. Find your teacher friends who are also interested in getting outside, and find some friends that are interested in research so that you have some background to support your rationales in case you get pressed on why your kids are always outside. You're probably going to need a bit of a buy-in from administrators and parents and guardians, so the more information you can share about why you're doing, what your rationale is, the better. We also need ways to get kids into and outside of the school quickly, because we can't be wasting 20 minutes every 3 hours while the kids get their coats on, take their coats off. My personal favorite way of getting around transition times as a teacher is to not do transition times in schools. Anytime that I can avoid having to transition, I will. So for example, if I want to do something outside with my students, I wait until either before recess or after recess so that their coats are already on. Next, we're probably going to need to set some ground rules when kids are playing outside. So we need to talk to them about how to hold sticks, where they can go, when they need to come back quickly. And we need to teach kids how to be respectful of dirt and mud because they are going to have to come into the school, and it's not fair to the custodian or to the other kids that have to walk through the school that there's going to be mud everywhere. So teach them, maybe they're allowed to stand on the outer edge of a muddy puddle. Maybe they're allowed to walk through the mud but not sit in it. Have those conversations and be firm in the boundaries so that students know what to expect and they can play to the edge of their boundaries without crossing any lines. The author talks about how when kids first start interacting with nature, specifically forests, there's research that shows that kids do some initial damage to the trees and things like that because they're running through it and they're collecting sticks and all of that. But over time, children start to take ownership of the places that they play in and start to feel a sense of responsibility for preserving it. And then lastly, one thing that I really like that the author talked about is that you don't need to live or teach next to a beautiful wooded area. That would be ideal. I would love for there to be just wonderful enchanted forests surrounding all of our schools, but that's not going to happen. But the author talks about just recognizing the nature that is around you. There can be nature in the neighborhood. There can be nature in a few cracks in the sidewalk if that's what it takes. But getting outside is a good first start, recognizing the nature that is around you, and then advocating for schoolyards to become a little bit more naturalized with trees and plants and digging up the concrete. Okay, so this excites me. I think we can do this. I do think that the benefits of being outside are super important. The author certainly highlights the benefits through this research and shows a lot of the ways that we can bring nature to our students. Now, let me be clear. I think that the best place to go camping is a Hilton. By nature, I'm not a huge let's go roll in the mud type of person. However, I know that I do feel better when I'm outdoors, and I do see the benefits for my own children and for the students that I teach. So I encourage all of us to try and take small steps towards getting outside and normalize the outdoors and nature so that we can not only preserve our earth, but also give our students the health benefits that come with being outdoors, the academic benefits that come with being outdoors, the resiliency skills, and the appreciation of nature. Well, that is all I have for you today. If you would like to read There's No Such Thing as Bad Weather, I will have it linked in the description box. As always, I would love to hear about your experiences with outdoor education in the comments below. If you have done outdoor education or you have taken steps towards outdoor education, please tell us everything. We want to know exactly what you did and how you did it so that we can copy you and do right by our students. Also, please give this video a like and share it with any colleagues you have that might be interested in this topic. Well, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye!